Good evening. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
And welcome to The Source. Well, this has been a very, very interesting week on the national level. This has been a very, very interesting week as it relates to the Democratic Party as well as the Republican Party. In the way of the city, because we always like to start our show off by talking a little bit about what's happening in the city. Thanks be to the Lord that we've not had any real serious violence, and we're very grateful for that. Yeah. But I do want to make sure that we stay on top of what has happened on Adams Street. And is there any updates on what's going on with Adams Street?
Yeah, so I know I talked about the fact that at the end of August, individuals who have been in the COVID-19 kind of cohort that were in hotels and motels were being asked to leave. They were saying that funding was up. That has been paused. It's going to be extended for at least another 30 days. And that also includes the North Adams Street people as well, too. Now, the whole discussion was whether they were going to be protected because that happened after 2020. It happened in 2022, just recently, right? Yes. So, you know, Secretary Molly Garrett said that those people will have extended time outside of just the 30 days. They will have longer to be able to be there until they get back on their feet.
Oh, wow. Well, that's great. I'm glad that, you know, at least we're working on it. But what I'm trying to also figure out, and I hope we can get some information on, is what's going on with the landlord. Is he doing what he's supposed to do to get it fixed, to make sure they get their monies back for those who paid their rent? Those are the questions that no one really can give me answers on. Right. But we want to make sure that he's not going to just be scot-free. I see that they still have all the fencing around, and they've cleaned out most of the houses, or apartments, shall I say. But I want to make sure that that these residents don't just be stuck in a hotel, even though they are getting their vouchers. I want to make sure they also are being treated right, so that when they are finished with the development, they'll be able to go back.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I don't think they should have to go back to a landlord like that, because at the end of the day, he's still going to own that property. But what I do think is, I hope that each one of them are taking steps in the legal realm to make sure that they're getting their money back from him for his negligence. But again, each person has to do their own individual case, which makes it very hard for us to track as well, too, about where those cases are, who's filing, who hasn't, and where, if any money has been reissued from the money he took right before they condemned the houses.
Yeah, now I think at one time we reported that the city was going to pay for some legal fees for them. Do you know if not that ever fared out?
I haven't heard anything. I know the residents are still asking for, help with storage, help with other fees that they thought that $13,000 was going to go to from the city council. So they're still waiting to hear where Nemours is on things with that.
Yeah, and we bring those things to you all every week, only because we're not going to let things go. The silent storm may not be a segment as much as you've seen it in the front end of our shows, but we still want to hold on our docket the things that are unresolved. And one of the things that I want to do for this week, too, is I want to shift our attention, Kobe, just for a second, to a national piece of news. It's the crises, the water crises in Jackson, Mississippi. And the reason why I really want to shift our attention is because there are so many similarities there as it is here in Wilmington. Wilmington having about 85,000 residents, they have about 125 or 150,000 residents. And when I saw that 83% of their population in Jackson, Mississippi is African American, while 55% here in Delaware, shall I say in Wilmington is African American, there are some similarities that got me. Yeah. I want to talk about the water crises, but before I talk about the water crises, I just want to make sure that every person, as we're getting into this political time of election, please pay attention to certain facts that are going on. And I've been accused of bringing division between the whites and the blacks and things of that nature. And it's all right. I don't mind being accused of something that is good, because if you treat people wrong, somebody has to raise their voice. And what bothered me is you have a white governor who will not speak to a black mayor. It's the similarities, because he won't knuckle under to what the white governor wants.
Correct. And first off, I just want to say this what's happening in Jackson, Mississippi didn't happen overnight.
Right.
This is from decades of systematic racism and divestment into communities of color, right? So Jackson, Mississippi is one of actually I think it is the blackest city in America.
Oh, wow.
And what is happening there, their water system has deteriorated so much to the fact that people, the vast majority, thousands and thousands of people, it's over 160,000 people live in the city. Thousands and thousands of people are with either no water or very low water pressure.
Yeah.
And the ones who do have water are under a bull advisory across the city. That is horrible.
It is.
Advocates are, mobilizing, trying to get drinking water to people, informing people, but you still have to shower, you still have to wash your hands and stuff like that. This water is not safe. And the fact that it took so long and so much pressure for the governor to finally do something, it actually took the president of the United States of America, President Biden, signing an emergency order first, declaring that the Department of Homeland Security mobilized disaster relief to help Jackson, Mississippi, and then the governor followed suit. The governor does not seem to be moving with urgency on this. Yeah. The governor didn't even invite the mayor to discuss what the city truly needs when he signed his emergency order. So that is just some of the discourse that is happening here. And at the end of the day, because the governor doesn't want to work with the mayor, and because they have a fractured city council, the only people losing out are the residents.
Right. And that's really where I am with this, because I'm showing some comparison, because all too often we African Americans, we elect people into office to serve us and to represent us, and a lot of times they're not doing it. But when they are doing it, a lot of times they're getting a lot of pushback. I've asked for meetings for with the mayor, with others, and it's been rejected because of my stand, and I don't knuckle under to people. But that bothered me when I saw that the governor of the state just pretty much dismissed the people because he did not like the mayor.
Yep.
It's just unbelievable.
And he didn't, and again, the reasoning he said he's now signing the executive order is because the water facility is at critical, right? It's about to fail. And it was damaged severely back in 2021. And then they started working on it. It got a little better. Then it was damaged again back in July. It is now September, and the governor's just taking action on this.
No problem.
And he has the resources there to help fix this. But that's not what his executive order is going to do. His executive order is just warning people of the bad water. It's not really investing into the community.
I hope those of you who are watching are paying attention and listening to what we're sharing, because we're just one emergency away from this situation. They don't have water to drink. They don't have water to be able to shower. They don't have water to be able to go to the bathroom. And you may say, well, it's only 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. But can I be very honest with you? 1 day is 1 day too many. And they really did not start addressing it until it shut down.
Correct.
Because it's been going on for the last couple of years.
Yep.
And when the governor decided to jump in, it's like only to say, let me put an advisory out there that you should not drink this water. That is preposterous. And that's just unfair. I looked at also, as I was reading various articles on this whole scenario and the relationship with the African Americans and the Caucasians, I saw another similarity that bothered me, and that is with the city council. It's 7 members of their city council, 5 of them are African American, 2 are Caucasian. And what bothered me was the president of city council is Caucasian, but what bothered me was when the mayor accused the city council president and one of the African Americans for taking bribes. Isn't that just so crazy that one of the reasons why a lot of things can't get done a lot of times is that people are in pockets with other people. And I'm so glad so many people are running against people right now, because that's exactly what happens.
Yep.
They get in bed with people and they forget about the constituents who got them to the offices that they're in.
No, absolutely. And at the end of the day, look, as a former candidate, I know it takes a lot of money to run a campaign. As someone who's worked on a lot of campaigns, it takes money to run a campaign. But there are limits to how much money someone can give you. And you know, just getting a max out donation is not worth selling your soul.
Amen.
In my mind, it's not worth selling your soul, right? But for other people, it is. And it's sad because we watch special interest groups come in time and time again, especially in communities of colors, and dish out a lot of money, especially to minority candidates. I know you said the council president, but I want to talk about the minority candidates.
Yeah.
Minority candidates has a disproportional is disproportionate in the access to capital to run a campaign. You can have the same exact resume, top of the line as a white counterpart, and you will not raise the same amount of money. And that's just because you raise from your circles. Overall, our generational wealth is not what it is of our white counterparts, right? So they have taken advantage, special interest groups have taken advantage of using that opportunity to really go into communities of color, cities that are predominantly black or predominantly minority, or cities that have a high number of minority candidates, using that to persuade them to vote for their interest to stay in office. Or face a highly funded opponent and be unelected. So it's sad, but again, it goes back to the talks of why we need to get dark money out of politics, right? And why we need to reform our public financing, or public campaign finance laws, to make sure that we're upholding fair elections, and special interest groups aren't keep buying these seats.
One of the things I was concerned about then, and I'm still concerned about, is that is exactly what's happening. A lot of times, I remember when this whole eminent domain had come up, a lot of people were saying this is racist, but then when the black people brought it up, they said, oh, it can't be racist because the black person brought it up, but they didn't know who was behind the scenes still pushing for that legislation to come to the front. And I'm very grateful for the folks over, I guess it was the Woodlawn Association, but one of those associations who had the meeting to say, look, we're not going to tolerate this, and if it continues, then certain things are going to happen. But I just wanted to bring that to the front today. One, I feel my heart goes out to those who are in Jackson, Mississippi. It's the capital. You would think that's the place, where things will be getting done. Yeah. But my heart goes out to them. But we are only one away. We had issues with our water here. In Wilmington. Yep. And I still don't know any report to say that we are in good standing. I heard that you can drink the water now, but you still not drinking it, and you come in with your spring water and put it in a cup and make it look like you are. But we really need to look into where are we with this whole water crisis that was going on, and what are the qualifications of those who's running our water department? Right. And that's something that they failed at, and that's something that we may need to catch now. We don't need a person who politically has been given a favor and now they're in those positions. But what are the qualifications of those who are running it?
Well, just here's the thing, and here's my thing. Circling back to Wilmington, right? So Wilmington's water department used to be unionized. It was people who were highly skilled in making sure those tanks are clean, water working here in the city, and that we had clean drinking water. Once they took the unions out, that's when things started going down. Once you start downsizing that department and thinking you can be all techie and just bring in consultants, that's when quality of water goes down. And there's a few things. I know people probably say, oh, Kobe's just the progressive, he's the progressive, he's socialist, yada, yada, whatever. Look, there's a few things in life that everyone should be guaranteed, and that's a safe place to live.
Absolutely.
Clean air.
Absolutely.
And clean drinking water.
Absolutely.
That's just a non-starter. And if I'm socialist or progressive for just that, that's crazy, right? But when we're saying, because we saw during the pandemic, all across the nation, there wasn't supposed to be any water shutoffs. Why? Because you were supposed to stay clean and fight back against this pandemic. We are still in this pandemic. Yes, we have vaccines. Yes, outside is now open somewhat, but things will never be back to normal. We're still going to have to fight this pandemic. You have polio back now. You have monkeypox back now. Yeah. We are facing 3 different crises right now. And the fact that people can't even stay in their house with clean drinking water should be, and we've just had this historic investment, 3 big $1 trillion packages of money being dished out from the federal government to cities, where is that money going, and how are you guaranteeing that those three basic needs, those three human rights, are being met?
Yeah, well, no, can I just add one to your, what you call them? They call you socialist and all those stuff. Well, let me just add one more, because I do believe the three is very much critical, but there's one more: education.
Yes.
Because there's no way in the world every person should have a right to education.
Yes.
But let me just, you asked the question, where is the money? I don't know, but what I do know is the fight between the mayor and the governor in Mississippi. Certainly he can block things because he's in charge. This is one of the reasons why I often reach out to the mayor's office to just talk. I don't care if we like each other personally. That's not important to me.
Correct.
When you are representing a people, you got to do what is best for the people. And sometimes we fail the people when we fail to sit around the table and have a conversation that is decent. I think I'm a little bit educated, not a lot, not educated, just a little bit. But I can hold a conversation. I can hold a sentence. We should be able to represent those who do not have a voice. But the problem is, in some communities, when you cross me, I don't want to have anything to do with you. I don't want you nowhere near me. And if your people suffer, that's your people. But then when it's time for crises, when we want a riot to stop, when we want things to stop going on in our cities, we call those same people to try to help. This has to stop.
Yeah.
And that's why I bring that to the front today. Because right now, I was looking at some of the people and we're going to show some footage of some of the reporting on this. But when I saw the people asking for just water, why can't we just have water? And they ran out a couple times for those who did donate water for them. They was giving them 2 cases or a case, and they just ran out. And people were waiting in line for hours for just water. But all of this stemmed from the fact, in my opinion, racism.
Yeah.
And
No,
my
I agree
wife
with you.
said something, and I'm going to say it, and she blew my mind because my wife is more quiet. She said, had this been in a white community, it would have been solved within an hour when it was a problem. And matter of fact, it would have never happened.
Yep.
And it blew my mind because she don't usually talk too much. She's just watching. But people are starting to get frustrated.
But again, Mississippi, this isn't a one-off, right? Since I was in high school, Little Miss Flint,
Yeah.
the young girl who brought attention to the situation on a national scale was 6 years old when she did that. She is now a sophomore in high school, and they still don't have clean drinking water.
Wow.
Let that settle. It's been almost 9 years. And what Governor Snyder did when he was the governor at the time, Republican governor of Michigan, and how they took the power because they didn't like the city council, they broke that government down so much that government doesn't exist. It's now county-based government running it who are Republicans. And now the Democratic governor is trying to put it back together, but it's hard to restart that.
That's right.
So, this isn't a one-off. Communities all across the country don't have clean drinking water. And I want to bring it back home to Delaware.
Okay.
We have communities. I'm not talking about up in Newcastle. I'm talking about in Sussex. Evansdale is a small town down in Sussex, does not have clean drinking water.
Right.
Does not have access to it. That is something that I believe, regardless, everyone, jokes, Sussex is red, Sussex is Republican. I don't care. Like I said, 3 basic human rights. Well, you added a 4.
That's right. Keep your 3, Andre.
Clean water shouldn't be a partisan issue. It shouldn't be a religious-based issue. It shouldn't be anything issue other than, I have clean drinking water, why don't you?
Absolutely.
And Evansdale has been fighting. There's been a lot of talks, but what happens in government and time again, I know I talk about the General Assembly, I talk about City Council, time and time again, the people who are traditionally in these positions of powers who are leading these discussions, they're good. They're not going home every day to no water.
That's right.
They're not going home to brown water coming out the faucet if they do have water. They have a nice home, a nice apartment. They have hot water.
Right.
They have heat. They have a safe place. So there needs to be more urgency in getting things done, even if you're not personally being affected by it.
Absolutely.
And that's all I want to see more from our elected officials. Not saying they don't do it now, because there are some that do that and look at their policy through that lens. But there needs to be more.
Absolutely. In both, there in Jackson, Mississippi,
Yes.
as well as here in Wilmington, Delaware. We want to just take a moment just so you can see some of the footage of what's going on in Jackson, Mississippi. We'll be right back.
It's horrible. And I would like for it to be fixed. Please fix our water.
Uncertainty running high in Jackson, Mississippi, as the city enters a fourth day without reliable water service.
I do want to be clear and set expectations that there will be future interruptions. They are not avoidable at this point.
On Wednesday, a new emergency rental pump was installed at Jackson's water facility. However, challenges quickly emerged with the water chemistry. Despite these challenges, Mayor Chokwe Antar Lamumba hopes water service will be restored by the end of the week. But some other local officials are skeptical.
They had to stop services today because they had a 10 million gallon tank that had to be dispersed and pumped out and then refilled so they could bring that water, the new water, up to quality standards to send out into the system. As to when we'll be able to have it back the way it should be, I'm hoping we'll have that in a week or 2 weeks.
As a result of the issues at the city's water facility, some residents are left with no water, others left with low water pressure or even brown water.
It's devastating as a father because, we're the providers for the family, and right now we are just crippled.
Mississippi has deployed the National Guard, and President Joe Biden approved an emergency declaration Tuesday. Schools and businesses have been forced to close, and there isn't enough water to fight fires in the state's capital. Parents are worried about their children's health during this crisis.
Fever, headaches, they got chills, all of that. I traced everything back to it was the water.
Residents are left waiting on hours-long lines for water.
I've been in line maybe almost an hour. It's been rough.
Somebody could do something.
The city's water problems have been ongoing for years, and there's been a boil water advisory in effect since July.
This has been an issue for me since I came down here to Tougaloo College in 1991. I was always told not to drink that water.
Jackson's mayor says he's hopeful for long-term change after having phone calls with President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris.
Both assured me that the eyes of Washington are watching the city of Jackson, and they assured me that their support was going to be demonstrated through long-range and long-term efforts through the EPA.
And we're back. Kobe, I have some good news. We've had an opportunity to talk about what's going on in Jackson, Mississippi, and do some parallels to what's happening here in Wilmington. But I am so excited about a Wilmington-based, well, I want to call it Wilmington-based, but their headquarters is pretty much here, is Bank of America.
Yes.
Bank of America have been good to African Americans. I know some very close friends, from the president of Delaware State to some fraternity brothers who did very well because they're executives. They were executives with Bank of America. But Bank of America came out with this new thing this week that was just blew my mind, and it talks about the initiative for colored people, or blacks and Latinos, where they can get a mortgage with zero down payment, zero closing costs, and no credit score requirement. Now people say that's too good to be true, but in actuality, this is what stopped a lot of African Americans and Latinos from being able to get homes, because they didn't have the cash to be able to put money down. The closing cost is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
The credit score, because sometimes Aunt Sally used our Social Security card and before we were even born,
right.
and some things happen. But what the requirement they are asking is that you have to be able to prove that you can pay a mortgage. Right. So that means you have to be able to say, here's my job, these are the bills I have, and this is why I want a mortgage of this size, not looking at their credit. This is a game changer.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it is. This is, well, it's a pilot program, right? So they're testing it in a few cities, and the cities that is first going to be available in current neighborhoods, in Charlotte, North Carolina,
right.
Dallas, Texas, Detroit, Michigan, Los Angeles, California, and Miami, right? Okay. So those are kind of some of the places with the highest market rate housing, right? So I think it's good that they're starting there so that they can get all the kinks out at a higher rate right? And then when they come to communities like Wilmington, like Dover, and offer it where the market rate housing is a little lower, it can be good for the overall people, right? But again, this program is called the Community Affordable Loan Solution, right? And this, again, after decades and decades of divestment, redlining, the racial wealth gap is at its largest point ever, right? This is a game changer, and it goes to a few things. I know I just said safe place, safe and affordable housing is a human right, which it is, but home ownership, right? Yeah. Home ownership strengthens our community.
Yes, it does.
Right? So now let's get out of just talking about safe and affordable housing and talk about safe communities, right? So when you stabilize communities in a way of, you're not just bringing in a bunch of apartments that are going to rent, you're going to have to give money back to someone else. You're talking about someone taking ownership of where they're living, not just the plot of land they're on, but they're going to take ownership of that block, right? Now you multiply that. Now you pair that with, hey, if you're African American and you're teaching in the city of Wilmington, we'll give you either more reduced loan or reduced mortgage. If you're a first responder, a public safety person, we'll give you an even bigger reduction on your mortgage. When you start talking about home ownership, workforce housing, and pair those two together, that's how you stabilize communities. That's how you're going to bring down gun violence, and that's going to be huge in these communities that they're starting in, and hopefully by 2023, it's here in the city of Wilmington, because I think that's going to be huge for us addressing the crime.
You know, a lot of times, I know what happened at 9/11. Yeah. I lost a lot of money when we had that catastrophe in our country. And from that point on, I made up my mind to do something. I made up my mind to start purchasing houses. That's why I have several of them in Philadelphia, and I have one here in Delaware. And one of the things I learned, each of the people who I hold close, like my nephew, I have a nephew, I have a niece, and I have a daughter. What I did was I bought a house. When my nephew went away, my niece first, when she went away to college, the house was paid for. If she didn't have money for loans or for tuition, the house was given to her. Now, she was very, very bright, so she ended up with all these scholarships. She now walks into a home that she owns. Her wealth becomes much stronger. For African Americans who are watching me, owning your own home is very powerful. My daughter, the home I live in right now, if we can't afford to send her to college, or she didn't get the scholarships, although she's a straight A student now, then she can take all that equity. I don't take out loans on my home or any of my properties. She can use that money to be able to pay for her college, or she can sell the house if she don't want to live where her mom and dad lived at and enjoy the money on her own. It's sometimes we so big on the stock market, but it's owning your own property helps your wealth gap. And I just really think at this point, this was I opened my eyes. I said, wow, this is great. Now, I'm not eligible for a first-time home, but I remember the first time I bought a home, how hard it was trying to find the money, still paying back student loans and all this other stuff, just get enough money to be able to do a down payment. This is a money changer, and I believe that it will respond to the racism that has occurred in our country over time. This is going to be something big.
I think it is, too. And again, even right now in America, most people are paying a mortgage payment right now for just rent.
That's right.
But the biggest barrier that has always been there for minorities is that down payment. So eliminating that.
And credit sometimes.
And credit, But eliminating that down payment is going to be huge to get people into the home ownership. Now, this program is basing it off of, have you been able to pay your rent on time?
That's right.
You've been able, not only your rent, but your auto, your phone bill, your insurance payments and stuff like that. So there's still going to be some people who need some work and everything before they expand this even more. But I think, it's a very good start.
When you know the rules of the game, you can get in the game. Okay. Now the problem is with credit scores, we can't tell who's getting better scores because of their not zip code, but because of their social security number, especially the middle two numbers, because that sometimes dictated a higher credit score. Now you're saying to me, if I've lived in this property for 4 years as a renter, I paid my rent on time, I paid my electric bill on time, I paid my phone bill on time, I was able to pay my car note. You're going to give me a loan and not base it on me being 700 or 800 or 900? Then this is a game changer. While it is not perfect, and you said they're going to test it out in a couple places, it says to all the other banks, it's time to address the racism in this country as it relates to the housing market. No more redlining.
No, I agree with you. And this comes after the historic redlining settlement, the $20 million settlement.
Ask you about that, yes.
With a Pennsylvania-based mortgage company that is operated and owned by Warren Buffett, right?
Okay.
And our Attorney General and the Attorney General of Pennsylvania and New Jersey were all a part of that lawsuit of them redlining communities right here in Delaware, in Philadelphia, in Jersey, right? So hopefully this, between that settlement, this initiative that's just been announced, other banks hear what's going on and start doing the right thing. And, you know, a lot of this comes out of 2020, right? You heard in the media, oh, it was just destruction and people didn't care about. No. People started highlighting injustices all throughout our system, systematic racism. And what we saw through that first COVID package was the small business loans. And how, in the small business loans, those banks that got millions and billions of dollars to give to small businesses to help keep them open. Well, guess who couldn't stay open? Minority businesses. Why? Because those banks only went to people they had worked with prior.
That's right.
And then it became so apparent that you couldn't hide it anymore, because now it's in mass that, wait, these banks have discriminated against minorities at mass, and we just gave them billions of dollars. So now they're being held accountable for their role in that, for their role in what happened in 2008, 2009. And Bank of America's taking a huge leap of faith and a huge step towards addressing the racial wealth gap and addressing the wrongs of their organization in the past. And that's all that people want. Look, we're not saying act like it didn't happen or just brush it under the table, but recognize the wrong you have done and do something to fix it.
Yeah, and for those of you who are watching us, please note this, and it's very important that you understand, no one wants to cry racism, racism, racism. Both of us, Kobe and myself, we are college graduates, okay? We're part of the middle class crew. But the reality of it is this: African Americans built this country. Let's lay it where it is. African Americans built this country. It wasn't until Barack Obama went into the White House where a black man was able to even occupy the house that was built off of free slave labor. We understand. I can go on and on and on. There are people who will inject some African Americans with this whole philosophy. The philosophy of, oh, they just like to talk about red, white, and black. Why can't we just all get along? We can't, as long as there's injustice. So when we see things like this, yes, we want to remind America, thank you for doing what you're supposed to do, because there are other nationalities who come over to this country who have done nothing for this country, who are doing better than those of us who have been here our whole lives. So it's important that we do highlight this, and I'm very grateful. And I'm not going to sit back and allow people to silence the reality that there's some fundamental basic needs. We talked about water earlier. We talked about education. But then that wealth gap needs to be fixed. America, well, shall I say Wilmington, please be mindful of the fact that African Americans have worked very hard, and I'm kind of glad now that we are starting to see some things that's going to work. Here's some reporting on that real quickly.
For first-time homebuyers, jumping into the housing market can be tough, and a new mortgage program aims to make the process easier while bolstering historically Black and brown communities. Candace Sweat explains how it works.
The decision to buy a home for the first time is a big one. Executing that decision can be daunting.
It is challenging when you're living, whether it's paycheck to paycheck or you have other bills lined up. on a monthly basis that you're left with just a little bit at the end of that month.
Stephen Lewis is president of the Dallas Association of Real Estate Brokers. He's excited about a new program already making waves in the industry, one that could have a far-reaching impact on Black and brown communities and kickstart someone's journey to home ownership.
There's still that dream for someone in that family. And that right now, this certainly could play a huge role in someone's outcome.
Bank of America rolled out a program for its zero down payment, zero closing cost mortgage for first-time home buyers in 5 markets across the country, including the Dallas area.
These are neighborhoods that as real estate professionals, we're seeing opportunities to build or renovate homes or improve homes in this area.
According to the National Association of Realtors, the home ownership rate surged in 2020, but the disparities persist. The home ownership rate for white Americans sits at about 72%, for Asian Americans 61%, Hispanic Americans 51%, and Black Americans 43%. This program incentivizes first-time home ownership in largely Black and brown communities. There are 7 eligible markets in North Texas, including Dallas, Denton, and Rockwall. Lewis says programs like this can change the game and alter people's lives forever.
I was very excited to see the target of the neighborhood aspect of it. These are for the families that is ready to build wealth today, ready to get the process started today.
Candace Sweat, NBC5.
And we're back. Kobe, this is as I say every week, this is the favorite part of my show, the show that we're on. Could you tell me what's going on with the Kobe Corner?
Yeah, so first I want to talk about City Council. City Council is back from their summer break. They will be having their first meeting. They actually just had their first meeting last week. They'll be having a follow-up meeting. They just had another follow-up meeting on Thursday, September 1st. But the council committee meetings aren't back until tomorrow. So it starts with the Finance and Economic Development Committee meeting, followed by on the 7th, the Intergovernment Committee meeting. And then on the 8th, which is one of my favorite committees to go to, is the Community Development and Urban Planning Committee. So you can tune in, whether it's on YouTube, on their page. You can still tune in and watch to see what's going on in these committee meetings. Look at the agendas. You can go on their website, wilmingtoncitycouncil.com/events. You can click on what committee meeting you want to go to see what's going on in City Council, what they're talking about, and what ordinances and resolutions they're introducing.
Are they going to be virtual or are they in person?
So they're back in person. You can participate via Zoom.
Okay.
But they are back in person. So at the Lewis L. Redding building, City and County building, okay. You can go in there and go to the committee room where it's being held. So it's either in a committee hearing room or to be in the chamber, depending on the size of the audience.
Now, the question I wanted to ask is, so with the City Council, is it required that all City Council members come back, or you can still do either or as a City Council person?
So it's highly encouraged that all of them are back, but there probably still will be some who will be virtual.
Okay, why is it highly encouraged?
That I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
I think some members still have some health concerns and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
There is still COVID, and I know most government bodies are still leaving that option open in case someone does contract COVID or is sick but still wants to participate in the meeting.
Okay, I'll leave that alone since you said it that nicely. Let me also ask, and then I'm going to let you go to your next point. Let me also ask, the committee meetings, you said one they're having about the urban development. You can do that either or too. Are the committees in session, or when I say in session, I mean in person, or are they Zoom as well?
The committee is in person.
Okay.
So with the option for you to participate via Zoom.
All right.
But yes, it's in person. Now, in the Finance and Economic Development one, they have posted their agenda already, and it's just a few things I want to highlight that they're going to be talking about. So one ordinance is going to be amending the city code regarding monthly billing of water storage and stormwater charges. And then another one is going to be regarding the paid parental leave, which is a bill we just got passed on a state level. So they're updating the requirements to make sure that it's in tune with the state code.
Now, will the monthly water bill, the water services, how's that being updated?
Yeah, so so only the title of the ordinance has been introduced. The bill hasn't been uploaded yet. You can't click on it just yet at the time that we're filming this. So once it is, I'll be able to read through and I can break it down. I'll definitely break it down on the next show to let people know what is going on with that and if there is going to be any changes. Now, they did already raise the taxes, so it could just be updating the code to reflect the price change.
Okay, good. All right, there you go. I'm done with my questions.
Yeah. So also, it is early voting time.
Yes.
So today, Sunday, and tomorrow, Monday, the polls are not open. But all week, this past week and all this following week, starting back Tuesday to next Sunday, the polls are open.
Right.
So you can go early vote. All you have to do is bring your voter registration card, let them know your name, bring your ID, whatever you want to bring. What they will do, they'll say, they'll look you up in the system, say you're a Democrat, Republican, you have a primary, you can go vote. They'll let you know. Make sure if you live in a district that has 2 races, everyone in the state can go vote because we have a statewide primary for auditor. And that's Lydia York is the Democratic Party endorsed person, candidate, and then the incumbent, Kathy McGinnis.
Okay.
But everyone has that race on their ballot, so everyone can go vote. But certain people also have a RD, which is a representative race up, or a county council race up, or if you're down in Sussex, they have some of the row offices. I think it's Recorder of Deeds and Registrar of Wills also have primaries as well too. Republican on that side. Up here, the county council is Democratic. So if you go to the poll and you know someone is running in your area and you don't see it on your ballot, make sure you raise that with the election workers, just in case there is a hiccup, because this is the first time we've done it here in Delaware. So there's bound to be some issues, but it is okay. It happens. Just make sure you raise the issue before you hit submit on your ballot to make sure that they get the right ballot for you and that your voice is being heard in all the races that is supposed to be heard in.
This is going to be a game changer as well, I think.
Yes.
I think it's going to give people an opportunity. Now, one of the things that I'm so excited about, we do it well in Philadelphia, we do it well in Georgia, but it's coming to Delaware. I've put an announcement up in the church for today's services, and we're going to be doing it next Sunday, September the 11th. Souls to the polls. I heard Chris Bullock say that one time, and I said, what is souls to the polls? And it's when the saints of God all leave church and go vote. And I'm hoping that we will, East Zion Fair, we're going to provide transportation. We're not telling you to vote for, hint, hint, but we are telling you we're going to vote. And we're going to make sure we provide transportation. We're going to vote in mass. And it doesn't matter whether members of East Zion Fair, members of visitors who are coming to East Zion Fair on the 11th, it doesn't matter where you live in the state, you will be able to vote. Have your registration card or your driver's license or state ID, and we're going to vote. And this is going to be exciting for me because it's going to tell me, it's going to show me how much voting strength we have. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. And I hope all of the pastors, and please don't let, East Zion Fair, I know Chris Bullock was very big on that back in the day, and I'm going to call him this week to make sure that he got Canaan doing it. And there's many other churches, Bethel, and all these churches that are in and around the state. But I'm talking about city of Wilmington. I really want you out there voting because the only way we can change some of this shenanigans that is going on is that we are voting. I don't mean to take up too much of your time, but I just want to make sure I said that souls to the polls.
No, I agree with you. Absolutely. And, I love Souls to the Polls.
Okay.
Because what we've done when I've worked in Philly, when I've worked in Georgia, we've turned it into a celebration of voicing your opinion on where we should be going with our democracy. Because our democracy is under attack. We did a block party up in Philly last year. We had Common come and perform. In Georgia, we had T.I., we had Future, we had 2 Chainz. We had so many people come out and party with us. But in order to get in and get access to that, you had to go vote. And the only thing we requested from you is show us your I Vote sticker. And we could also see who's early voting as well, too, when we got those data dumps. So it was a fun time. It's a fun time. It's a way to encourage your community to make sure you get out during the weekend if you have a busy week. But on top of that, all schools will be closed on September 13th, which is huge, right? They're going to have an in-service day that gives the teachers who are traditionally having to vote either early in the morning or late at night opportunity to go vote as well, too. Now, it is federal law that you are able to go vote. If you only have a 30-minute lunch break, you're supposed to get an hour to 2 hours. If it's not paid, if it's paid, that's up to your company. But you're supposed to get that time to go vote. So make sure you create a plan. We have created more access points to the polls than ever before in Delaware. You can early vote. You can vote on election day. You can register the same day to vote. So it is no excuse.
So if I'm not registered on Souls to the Poll day, I can still go and register as long as I have valid ID.
Correct. And that you can
I
prove
love
where
it.
you live
I love
and
it.
stuff like that.
I love it.
So we have made it easier for you to vote. It is on you. Please go vote. And please encourage your friends to vote, your family to vote. If you're voting at the polls, you should be walking out of there calling or texting 3 people saying, hey, don't forget it's election time. Get to the polls. You have an election here in Delaware.
Absolutely.
But talking about our democracy, President Biden is back on the campaign trail, right?
Joe is on the campaign trail.
Yes. Yes. Last Thursday, I joined the campaign down in Rockville, Maryland, as they did a joint event with the Maryland Democratic Party, the DNC fundraiser, and then we did a rally with Wes Moore, who's going to be the first African-American governor down in Maryland. Let me tell you, this young man is dynamite. He's an author. Oprah's cutting videos for him, which I think is huge. But he is a young guy who turned his life around, was in the military, was an Army captain, a junior college graduate, and then went on to be the first Black Rhodes Scholar at Johns Hopkins, right? So he has an impressive resume, but he is dedicated to the community he came up in. And honestly, the speech that he gave a little bit of those DNC 2004 Obama vibes. So definitely someone you're going to want to keep an eye on. President Biden in Maryland.
Okay, good. Okay.
President Biden has hit some of the key states on the campaign trail. Just Thursday, he gave an amazing speech about democracy up in Philly. And it's going to keep going. It's going to keep going. So as he hits the trail, as the DNC's on the trail, as we're seeing things change, just Wednesday, we saw the final ballots be counted in ranked choice voting in Alaska's House election. Don Young passed away. He was the longest serving House member. He passed away on a flight back home a few months ago. A Democrat won that seat, and not just any Democrat. The first ever Native Alaskan is going to the House of Representatives in D.C. And the first Democrat in 50 years. That is following New York's 19th win of us holding that seat up there. why things are turning, this isn't unusual. Now, the last time a party has won a special election and flipped a seat was back in the 60s under LBJ, and we ended up losing seats in the November election. So we can't take that as a grain of salt. We can't say, oh, well, yeah, Democrats are going to win now. No, you still have to work for it. But I think because of what's going on in this nation right now, things have changed. Things are looking better. I still think it's going to be a tight window. It's still within that 10 lost seats for me, at least right now for Democrats. But I think the blueprint is there to really make this a very competitive midterm election.
Yeah, and all the winds are saying that Democrats will lose, but I was the one who kept saying we may not lose this. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So my last thing, and I probably going to follow up on this on the next show, is I want to talk about just the gun violence that we've seen and the traumatic effects it's having on our youth. We talked about bringing community leaders, faith leaders, the elected officials, the public safety figures all together. I still think that still needs to happen. But another aspect I want to just to add it on to make sure I said this publicly is I truly believe that we have to create some type of safe space for those individuals who are involved with the gun violence to have a discussion amongst themselves.
Okay.
And that's just, I think they need to talk it out, because the one safe haven that's supposed to be guaranteed no matter where you're at isn't the community center, isn't, grandmom's house anymore. It's the barbershop. And you hear different barbers all across the city talking about they want to solve this issue because they hear these kids talk about their issues. The barbers have become the therapists. They open up more to the barbers than they do some of these therapists and psychologists. And the barbers want to get involved as well too. So I just want to put that out there. And I definitely want to talk more in depth about the gun violence next week.
And this, and when you're speaking of the gun violence, you're talking more than just Wilmington. In general. And I just saw an article just this week where in Philadelphia, a kid was shot in the barbershop. But most of African American conversation happens in the beauty in the barbershop. Sometimes it's crazy stuff. But when it comes down to this whole violence piece, they know what's happening. They hear what's happening. They've seen the interchanging, and they're willing to help. But they got to know they have confidence in the people who they can give the information to help deal with some of this violence. I think that's very good, Kobe. And as a matter of fact, we will find some space so that we can have some conversation on that to see where we can go and how we can maybe make some suggestions or plan for the mayor and the governor. But we don't know. All right. Is that all you have for me today?
That's all I have today.
Well, that's real good. We'll be right back. And we're back. Well, we're getting ready to close out the show, Kobe, but I want to make sure that we stay true to just talking a little bit about the state representatives race. There's two, District 1 and District 2, and I just want to know where we are. Has there been any news on any of those?
Yeah, so like I did say, it's early voting time. People have been out and voting. It seems that all four of those campaigns have really ramped up efforts in this last few weeks. As we, count down to September 13th. I'm sure all four of them will agree with this statement. They probably can't wait until September 14th to get some sleep. Because I will say this, regardless of who I'm supporting or, all campaigns have been working very hard. So I hats off to them. But this is the fun part, right? This is what democracy is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about the difference of ideology, the difference of policy, the discussion, and trying to uplift what the community wants. And look, the community knows what it wants. So I think you're going to see higher than projected turnout. You're not going to see 2020 turnout.
Okay.
You're not going to see 2018 turnout when we had Trump in the White House, but you're going to see higher than projected turnout right now. I feel as though it's going to be higher turnout than in 2010 and 2014 when we had a Democratic president, and you saw more African Americans and more young people really not enthused to go vote. I think there has been a good job of engaging those people and reminding them that it's election time and this is why you should go vote.
Okay, that's good. So we have in District 1,
yes.
Who are the two candidates?
So you have the incumbent, who's Nnamdi Chukwocha, versus Councilwoman Shanae Darby, who's challenging him.
Okay, for that District 1 seat.
For the District 1
okay.
seat, yeah.
And who's in District 2?
So District 2, you have incumbent Stephanie T. Bolden versus James Taylor, who's challenging her for District 2.
Okay, I haven't seen any of his stuff out. Is his stuff out as well?
He has some signs up,
okay.
But it seems as though Stephanie has a lot more. Yeah. In District 1, it seems about even with the signs.
Okay.
Now, I will say one of the, well, not just one, but a few of those signs have shown up on the same properties that were listed as properties that needed to be taken over by the city during eminent domain for the incumbent and sponsor of that bill. So it's just funny that that's happened. But it's about even with the sign battle there. Now, I say signs don't vote, right?
Absolutely.
So I can have a sign up just because all my neighbors have a sign up doesn't mean I'm voting for that person. Doesn't mean I'm voting, period, right? Making sure you're engaging, talking, and meeting people at the doors, talking to them, reaffirming that, yes, I'm not only going to vote, but I'm also planning to vote for this person. I'm going to vote. I'm going to early vote on September the 10th at noon, and I'm going to take my new 18-year-old son or child with me and make sure he votes as well too. And then my spouse is going to vote the next day at the Souls to the Pole event, right? Unfortunately, I can't make it because I have work, right? So making sure you have that plan is kind of what you should be doing right now with the people who have supported you.
I ask that as you are preparing to vote, I hope that you will take serious. You can put whatever sign you want to put out. You can use any language you want to use. But you really need to know the candidates and you need to know what they stand for. If they do not stand with your values, with your morals, with what you believe the community, in the direction the community should be going in, you should not be supporting them. I watch too often that we just go along to get along, but you cannot do that. Send the message this year. Who do you really want in District 1? Who do you really want in District 2? Get out, vote, 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 and then vote. The only power we have as African Americans is our vote. And if we vote right, now I'm gonna get in trouble for this next comment. I thank God that no one ran against Senator Darius Brown, because one of the things I've learned, he's not a perfect man, and I would never view him as that. But one of the things I learned is that he did deliver on his promises. He promised he was going to bring things in from the library, money for this group, money for that group, so that our community can continue to grow and get better. He needs a good team. He needs a good team. And I want to say thanks for that, but I pay attention to what they're doing. Now, I'm not here to give a campaign for him, but nobody ran against him, so I can say that freely. And I thank you, community, because at the end of the day, he has represented us. Now we have District 1, we have District 2. We also have some other state representatives who are not up for election this year, but they're coming back. And we're going to make sure we remember, as I often say, in November, because there's some people hiding behind the wind right now. But we're going to make sure that everything comes to the light as we move forward. But I do want to say that for District 1, District 2, I think you should be voting. I think you should be voting. I think you should be voting. And I think you should get out there and, as Kobe said, put a plan together. How are you going to vote, when you're going to vote, and take as many people as you know so that the votes can be counted. We got early voting now. There is no excuse not to vote. That's all I have for you today. Before I say that's all I have, I just want to say thank you too. Can I say that? Just thank you to the Wilmington community. Thank you to the East Zion Fair Church family. Thank you to all of you who really supported me during the time of my mom's transitioning. Listen, I was so mesmerized. I mean, from even BB Coker, she came by the office and interrupted one of my meetings because she needed to see me. And Bishop Morton, to all of you. I just named certain people, but there's so many more who have come just to say, Curry, we're praying with you. We're praying for you. That's what mattered. That's what got me through it. I'm not totally over it yet, but I'm faring well because you prayed for me. I want to thank you so very much, and I appreciate you for all that you've done. I even seen you at the service too, Corey. I didn't think you come out at night, but I thank everybody for all you've done for me. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
Until the next time, see ya.
Take care, y'all.